Well, with the Nightmare on Elm Street series down, what series are we going to review next? Why don't we review this series with Freddy's biggest opponent, Jason Voorhees, as we are now going to be reviewing the Friday the 13th franchise. Hi everyone, it's me Gaming Do, and welcome back to my movie reviews, as today we are starting a new horror franchise as we get into my reviews for Friday the 13th. And with that being said, before we get into the actual review itself, I just want to say something about this movie in particular. This is about its filming location in Warren County, New Jersey. Guess what? I live 20 minutes from where this film was shot. I live in Sussex County, New Jersey, and this film was filmed down in Warren County, which is my neighboring county to the south. And I've driven past the cemetery where they filmed this movie multiple times, and I just thought it would be an interesting fact to tell you that this movie was filmed right around where I live. It's crazy to think, but Friday the 13th was filmed right around where I live, and the series is pretty much set where I live. So that's freaking awesome. And I do want to go to the camp where it was actually filmed. I've never been there, but I've driven past the cemetery from the film on multiple times. I believe it was to go to my great uncle's place with my grandfather a few times. We drove past that cemetery to go to his place, and that's freaking awesome. So, fun fact, Friday the 13th was filmed around where I live. Does that mean it's one of the greatest slasher movies of all time? For a first movie in the franchise, no. This is not a particularly great movie, but overall, I enjoy it. Let's start off with the positives. If we're considering the rest of the series, I kind of like the fact that Jason is not the killer in this film, and it's actually his mother, Pamela Voorhees, who is still pretty damn scary. And the kill of Kevin Bacon's character to the freaking throat. Oh, I hate throat kills, and one of the worst ones is in this movie, but I think the worst one is in Halloween 2 from 1981. I believe it was the last kill of the movie. That was, oh my god. Something about throat kills are just, gets under my skin, but it's just the fact that Pamela Voorhees is pretty much absent until the very end of the movie when they reveal her. It makes her a pretty good villain, despite Jason not being the actual killer in this film. But then you got the kills in the film, which I think are all pretty damn good. Again, I'm going to kind of get into the fact that I live around the area where this was filmed. It looks like the woods in my area, all joking aside. It's pretty surreal, and when I was walking in the woods to go hunting with my grandfather one time, it actually made me a little uneasy, because I believe I watched the first Friday the 13th like a week before we went hunting. So, that was something. And the kills in this film are very good, honestly. Other than that, the setting is pretty nice. Very unique setting with a campground, basically, and just the fact that my grandparents, again, I'm gonna get into the area, they lived on a campground. It wasn't near Camp Crystal Lake or anything, but it was about 25, 30 minutes from there, and yeah. So I like the setting, I like the kills, I like the main villain. That being said, this movie is not perfect per se. And I'll get into the main reason why. Pretty much every other character in this film is not very good. Which means pretty much all of the protagonists, including the main protagonist herself, is not especially great. Mainly because most of them are just plain forgettable. And that's my biggest flaw with the film. This film just has very forgettable characters compared to the other films in the franchise. Like, who's gonna remember the main protagonist of this film over Tommy Jarvis? Seriously. Tommy Jarvis had a real impact in this film. And even the girl, Tina from Part 7, I remember over... Is her name Alice, I think? I don't even remember the main protagonist's name, but I've seen this film at least 3 or 4 times, so... Really, that's my biggest flaw, but it is a big flaw that is pretty... It's gonna tack on to the film to be a big problem when you got one really good character with Pamela Voorhees and stuff like that, but with the rest of the characters being just either bad or forgettable mainly, it really makes it to where it's not a film that's very rewatchable per se. So, overall, in my opinion, as much as I live in the area of this film, and this film has a good killer, a good setting, and good kills, with all the forgettable characters and some cringeworthy dialogue and just some cringeworthy scenes too. Overall, the original Friday the 13th is not great, but it's enjoyable enough to the point where I'm going to give it a B. Friday the 13th is, for a first film, one of the weaker first films in a franchise, as the original Halloween from 1978 and the original Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984 are both freaking classics. I can also lump the original Child's Play into there too as being a classic. Friday the 13th Part 1 I really can't because of its forgettable characters and cringeworthy moments. So overall, I can't particularly say I'm a big fan of this film, but it's enjoyable enough. And that's really all I got to say about the original Friday the 13th. I hope you guys like this series. Next up is going to be part 2, where Jason Voorhees is actually the killer of the franchise from this point on. Well, that's a little bit debatable with one film, but we'll get into that probably in November, as I'm planning on reviewing half of the series in October and half of the series in November. So, yeah, I hope you guys like this review. We'll get into part 2 in a couple days, and yeah, that's about it. Gaming Do here. See you later. Bye.